My name is Ken Cook. I'm president of EWG, living here in Northern California. And I have a big dog in this fight that we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to be talking to some of the leaders from the state in trying to protect and expand rooftop solar, which is, when I first came to California 10 years ago, it was sort of a pride and joy that I looked forward to joining this revolution that got started out here, I think with Governor Schwarzenegger and some of the folks who are on this call right now, where we were leading the world in rooftop solar. And now that's being undone in a way that is beyond tragic. And we'll be talking about that in some detail with these incredible, talented, dedicated advocates and experts who we have on the call today. I'm going to introduce them in order, and then we'll go through that one by one. And if you have questions that you want to ask the group, put them in the chat. We'll probably hold those to the end. But I want to thank everyone who's joined the call, including my guest today. Bernadette Del Chiaro is the executive director of California Solar and Storage Association. Again, front lines of the fight here, trying to make the case that it's crazy to do what has been done to the rooftop solar sector here on behalf of utilities. Really unbelievable. Carlos Becar, another frontliner. He says he's just one step away from being a guy on the roof, but he represents Fresno-based solar company Energy Concepts Enterprises that's been around for 30 years. Is that right, Carl?
Yes, that's correct. That's
30
correct.
years. Okay, we're going to hear what's happening from his perspective now. Dave Rosenfeld is often in the background by choice, but he is one of the real leaders who has made the fight such a good fight here in California to protect rooftop solar by organizing under the auspices of Solar Rights Alliance, of which he is the executive director, hundreds of organizations that wanted the California Public Utility Commission to not do what they did. We had some wins in there, but Dave was in the middle of that fight, organizing everyone. Laura Dehan is the returning champion. Laura is the state director of Environment California. She has been involved in this fight and many others as an advocate for many years. And Laura, I'm so grateful that you could join us from Dubai, and maybe you'll have extra perspective there. So let me first turn it over to Bernadette. You're one of the heroes for me in this whole issue, Bernadette. I'm really just in awe of what you've accomplished, helping create a political force for the rooftop solar industry here in California. And so we welcome your perspective, especially the new and disturbing information that you have collected about the impact of the Public Utility Commission's decision on rooftop solar. So Bernadette, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks for having me and pulling this together. I've been at this advocating from here in Sacramento for distributed rooftop solar for over 20 years, and I can't even recognize my own home state here. It's unrecognizable what California has done to its pride and joy. The solar industry, the rooftop solar industry, is the iconic renewable energy success story, and it's just amazing. It's gobsmacking what the state has done. So we sadly want to take a few minutes to sort of just set the stage on what the damage is, and then we can talk more about it and where we go from here. So if we could pull up my slide deck. While we're pulling up the deck, I'll just tell you the California Solar and Storage Association, if you're not familiar with us, we are California's oldest and largest clean energy business group. We've actually been around since the 1980s, where California really actually got started with solar energy. And we have currently over 700 members, though, as I will talk about here, companies are dropping off like flies. So our membership is not likely to hold that number. Sadly, for the first time in 20 years, we're going to stop growing. So let me just take a step back and just make sure level set what it is we're talking about. So big picture here, you know, utilities, the investor-owned utilities, PG&E, Southern California Gas, and San Diego Gas and Electric, owned by Sempra, they control 80% of California's of the grid. And they hate competition. They're monopolies. They don't like the idea of their customers generating their own power, and then they like it even less that they can share it with their neighbors. So it flies in the face of their monopoly, and it cuts at their bottom line. So as a result, they got the California Public Utilities Commission to make huge changes to the most foundational and successful program that California has introduced to the world, called net metering. It's been around since 1995, and it is the most reliable, successful program at deploying real powerful amounts of renewable energy anywhere in the world. It is the most successful program. And so they wanted to take it down, and that is what they did. Earlier this year, the Public Utilities Commission implemented a decision that they made last December. In essence, what that decision did was it reduced the value of energy put back on the grid during the day by a consumer 70 to 80%. And that change happened basically right away, overnight. There was no glide path. And so as a result of that, we'll get into this, but fewer and fewer consumers are going solar. A few months later, just last month, the Public Utilities Commission came and did a second blow to the industry, this time focused on properties like schools, farms, strip malls that often serve small minority businesses, and apartment buildings, anything with multiple meters. And they just said, we're going to have a different decision for those properties. And that decision went even further. And we haven't even seen that shoe drop and hit our market. We're going to have more job layoffs, more business closures, more harm to the market on the multi-meter side as that decision takes effect on February 14th of 2024. So we're just getting started seeing the damage. And what I'm going to show you is what that looks like so far, 6 months in to the first round of cuts. Next slide. First of all, we predicted this. A lot of people predicted this. On the left is a quote from myself. When they made this decision, we objected to it. We said, this is not going to help us transition. We are going to fall off a cliff if you do this. It will result in business closures and job losses at massive scale. They didn't listen. They put out this sort of sunny, rosy prediction that we were going to launch the clean energy businesses into the future. And I don't mean to be bitter, but this is our industry. This is our specialty. We want solar and storage to continue to thrive. And they just didn't listen. There's just a complete disregard for listening to businesses in California, particularly small businesses that really make up the lion's share of this industry. Next slide. Yeah, this is good. Fine. So this is just sorry, my slides got a little funky, I think, going from Mac to non-Mac, but so I'm sorry they're a little scurry, or at least look that way to me. Laura Dehan is going to go into more depth on this, but I just want to show you real briefly how far California has to go to meet its clean energy goals. You know, a lot of state leaders are in Dubai right now. Laura's going to get into this. We are so far from achieving our clean energy goals. This is how much more solar energy California needs to get to its clean energy goals. We are not even near the finish line. So to trip up its most successful and accessible clean energy resource, rooftop solar, it just runs completely counter to everything the state says it wants to do. Next slide. And this is the image for batteries. We need tons of energy storage to make the sun shine at night. Those batteries, though, all that orange you see, they need to be connected to solar panels. They don't just exist and work on their own. So it just shows you how much more solar and how much more storage we need, and we're just getting started. Next slide. So I've got 2 slides that'll show you the real-time, real-world impacts of this decision. This is sales data. So this shows on April 15th is when the new net metering program took effect. We saw an immediate precipitous drop in sales. anywhere from 70 to 80% drop. And this is year over year. And that's really important because summertime is our growth month. That's when most Californians think about going solar. They don't do it right now in the rainy season. They do it when the sun comes back out. So for us to be 70 to 80% of our growth, and Carlos can talk more about this, it is devastating to those businesses trying to stay afloat. Next slide. And then this is interconnection data. So the two data points corroborate with each other and line up. Basically, this is when we sign somebody up to go solar and you get a permit from your local city. The last step is you interconnect to the grid. And that application is the sort of start of that. And so this is interconnection applications. And again, the months got lost here in the slide translation. I apologize, but this is basically, May, June, July, August, September, October. These months, we're seeing this basically the same huge drop, anywhere from 60 to 80 to 90% drop in interconnection. There are a number of people responding to this new program and deciding clearly not to go solar as a result of reducing the incentives. It's not rocket science, but it's what we predicted, and it is what is happening. Next slide. And then this just shows jobs. So as a result of this, our industry is shedding jobs by the tens of thousands. We estimate we have lost or about to lose in the next couple of weeks, right before Christmas, 17,000 solar jobs. 17,000 jobs have been shed as a direct result of this really bad policy decision that was made on behalf of California's investor-owned utilities. And that is 22% of California's solar workforce. That's Depression era level drop in jobs. It's just devastating. And again, something Carlos can speak more to is the real world impact of that. It's one thing to talk about numbers on a slide. The amount of work it takes to recruit and train people in the specialized skill of solar installations, and then you have to let that all go. It's a blow that you can't even quite capture with a graph. It just is devastating to this industry that has worked so hard to build up to the place that we are at right now. Next slide. And then just this slide is highlights a couple of things. One is just more job losses are coming. This is the first wave. Most of our companies expect to have more layoffs. And I want to just highlight that the impacts are not evenly felt across the state. So the Los Angeles area and the high desert, along with our rural parts of California, are seeing the highest numbers of job losses. And then, of course, the Valley and the San Diego region as well. Next slide. And I just want to highlight what I think most people know, but just need to say it, is these are great jobs. These are jobs in your community, building a better future for your kids and for your family. And they pay on average $70,000 a year plus full benefits. So these are quality jobs that are skilled and trained, and we just lost a big chunk of them. Next. And then the future is not bright. Most of our companies looking ahead at the winter and getting through the winter are not optimistic. Again, it's a little hard to see, but we can share the slide deck afterward as a PDF, and you'll be able to see the data a little better. So in essence, people are very pessimistic about the future, with negative cash flow anticipated, and which is obviously going to be hard to stay in business. Next slide. Same thing, and again, just highlight the disproportionate impact among regions. Next slide. So we can talk more. I don't want to talk too long, but if the damage has been done, this is a travesty for clean energy. But the state could work to try to rebuild and reverse this damage. But we need to act fast. And first and foremost, we need to stop doing more harm, which they're continuing to go after us. And at the PUC, the decisions just keep handing down that are damaging to this industry. So we need to stop doing more harm. And we need basically our governor and our state leaders in Sacramento to make it a priority to rebuild this critical market, recoup those job losses, and get California back on track. We should be highlighting and incentivizing batteries, not taking away the financial value of these technologies. So with that, I will hand it back to you, Ken.
Thanks, Bernadette. And all this information, all these slides will be made available. They're all on your website, Bernadette. I know this information. It's fresh. It ought to be making headlines now. And not to steal anyone's thunder who's about to follow, but where are our state leaders when we need them to talk about the loss of 17,000 jobs and counting? Where are you? Well, I guess some of you are maybe in Dubai. We'll hear about that later. But what about showing up in San Francisco at the Public Utilities Commission? Or what about speaking out in Sacramento? Governor Newsom, where are you? This is the front lines of efforts for clean, distributed energy, core to our future, as Bernadette said. Where's the leadership? Now I want to turn to Carlos Bacar, who you are on the front lines, and your company, 30 years on, getting up on roofs, making this really happen. So Carlos, give us your perspective on what has unfolded since these terrible political decisions to the benefit of the utilities have hit home for you.
Thank you, Ken. It's funny. It's just so hard to be able to answer that succinctly and to know where to start. I'll start with this, for example, and you just said it, right? So 17,000 job loss and counting. And I'm going to warn and I'm going to remind people and counting, because the impact is even going to become worse as the months progress. Because here's what's happened in the last 3, 4, 5 months. A lot of companies retained a good number of employees because we were putting systems on roofs from the onslaught that we had prior to the decision. So prior
people
to
getting under the deadline.
Exactly. All the people that came.
I was one of them.
Yeah. All the people that came under the deadline, we install those systems through the summer and coming into the fall. I can tell you that, contractors, companies, we talk to each other. We're coming to the end of that backlog of installations. So the job loss, the end counting part is going to get worse now. So that's one of the things, because now, the volume has dropped by 80 to 90%. Of the volume of activity, the volume of interest, because it just doesn't make any sense for a homeowner who goes solar and does it overwhelmingly to save money, and all that disappeared. And the hardest part of this is explaining to that homeowner that really doesn't care about all the mechanics behind all of this, and why things happen, explaining to them why the solar system now takes 2 or 3 times longer to pay back, or which is more importantly, because we talk more about the immediate savings in the customer's bills, why now they're not saving as much as their neighbor, or their relative or their friend. Because here in California specifically, we've done such a good job the last 10 years or so installing solar that most people have a friend or a family member or a neighbor that has solar. And the conversations are really awkward because now we have to say, it's not the same as it used to be. Why? And it's so hard. There's no reason why.
Yeah, makes all the sense in the world. Well, thank you for joining us and telling us about that experience firsthand. Again, can you imagine what would happen if a couple of factories closed down and 17,000 jobs disappeared overnight?
We would never stop hearing about it.
Right.
And this have come over time. Number one, it comes across a large state like the state of California. Personally, we have reduced our headcount by 50%. And it's extremely frustrating because, like Bernadette said, these are good paying jobs. We offer our entire company, all of our installers, everybody in the company, we offer 401k, we offer training, we offer health benefits, which is not very common, by the way, in the general, construction business. Right. And then to replace the people that we've lost, because it seems simple. Oh, you're putting solar panels on a roof. But if anybody's gotten on top of a roof, I can tell you it's scary and it's not easy and it's complicated. And all the safety training that we have to go through, teaching people just how to, get up on a roof and be safe. That's an investment that companies make on these employees, and now it's lost.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for telling us the straight scoop, Carlos. It's heartbreaking. I have rooftop solar on now. I'm still furious about it. I beat the deadline. Lucky me. But I got to tell you, I had a friend who told me when I moved to California, Kenny, she was old enough to call me Kenny. Every time I go to California, I feel like I'm visiting the future. And Bernadette, you said it right. It doesn't feel like the California we know now with this incredible setback. I want to turn next to Dave Rosenfeld. Buddy, you have organized ferocious resistance to this power grab, this wealth grab, this money grab by the utilities. And you're mostly behind the scenes and you put other people out front. But it was really important for me and others at EWG to hear your voice today. Give us your take on how this is unfolding now and all the groups, all the organizations that you brought to this fight. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I think, Bernadette said before, we told them what was going to happen and they just didn't listen. So let's talk about who the we was. Certainly the industry was telling the CPUC and the governor and basically anyone who would listen what was going to happen. You would think that would be enough, right? Because these are the people that get up on the roof. They have to talk to customers every single day. They know how consumers behave. They were backed up by more than 200,000 people across the state who submitted a public comment to the CPUC. More public comments by an order of magnitude than any other issue the CPUC has ever dealt with. 200,000, almost 250,000 people directly told the CPUC, don't do this, keep rooftop solar growing. In addition, there were more than, and if you could show the first slide, that'd be great. But I want to just have this scroll across the screen as I say it. So I'll just wait a second. There were more than 600 nonprofit organizations, cities, school districts, farmers, businesses that were saying, don't do this, keep rooftop solar growing. We're talking about environmental justice organizations, renters' rights advocates, affordable housing advocates, schools, farms, groups that work with, to prevent climate change, to clean up the air. We're talking about real organizations. And let's go to the next slide. And I want to just, so you just see some words, but like actually some of the organizations that are in this fight. Okay, never mind. Doesn't matter. My point is, you can close the slide, and I want to just repeat that, is advocates for low-income people, advocates for middle-income people, advocates for the environment. All we're just saying, because they see rooftop solar as something that is really helping working and middle-class people be able to control their household bills, right? Keep some of that wealth in their home and in their community to get a battery so that then they can finally protect themselves from blackouts. To do actually something that's going to help the state meet these really ambitious clean energy goals that we are not on track to meet. So it was like the entire nonprofit community, but again, school districts were saying, don't do this. There were farmers that were saying, don't do this. Entire cities, their town councils were saying, don't do this. And the CPUC, and by extension, Governor Newsom, because the CPUC is appointed by the governor, he was well aware of all of this stuff. There was nothing that was not transparent to him, just completely disregarded what the public was saying. So there was the data, there was what the industry was telling them, and then there was what, almost everybody under the sun, from the general public all the way to well-informed nonprofit organizations representing every constituency you can think of, was saying it is a breathtaking disregard of public input. It is, I think, a disgusting affront to frontline communities, and especially because if you were watching the debate, both the CPUC and the folks in the governor's office were defending their decision as this is going to be better for working people. This is actually better for equity. And yet the actual leaders and people that are fighting every single day to increase equity were saying, what are you talking about? the most inequitable thing you could do is take rooftop solar away from the people, and then, cause massive layoffs for a huge segment of the working class here in the state. So this is an attack on the working class. This is an attack on the middle class. It is a disregard of public opinion and public sentiment. It's a disregard for the state's nonprofit community. It's a disregard for our school districts who, know a thing or two about what's best for them. And so there's nothing else to say. We told them, they didn't listen, and now the consequences are starting to come down the pike. And now the question is, are they going to do something about it? The ones who actually have some power to do something are legislators, maybe the governor, or are they just going to go to China and Dubai or wherever they are and kind of tell other people how to run their energy policy like a bunch of hypocrites, while back home, Rome is burning? And I think that it's a very simple question. What are they going to do now? Are they going to do anything, or are they just going to sit on the ashes of the mess that they created?
Dave, thanks so much. That's the question we're asking these leaders now. Are you going to do anything? And I just want to underscore another level of insult. It's as if they were saying to all of these community groups that opposed the policy to destroy rooftop solar, the groups that stood up in your coalition, it's as if they were saying to them, you don't really understand what's in your own best interest. You don't really understand what's best for people living in middle class, working class, low income areas. You don't really understand that. We understand better. And the solution is the one we've proposed, which is to basically extinguish competition for these big utilities. And by doing that, cause thousands of jobs to be lost and the opportunity for energy independence to be lost along with it.
I mean, it's insane, Ken. You had the leading tenants' rights organizations, right? These are people that are fighting every single day to keep the rent down for people so they don't get evicted and then go out into the streets, right? Like, you could not talk about a group of people that are more in touch, right, with renters. And they were directly, in the clearest possible way, saying to the CPUC and the governor and the people who work for the governor, keep rooftop solar growing, don't change these policies, make them stronger, not weaker. And not only did they not listen, but literally when they justified their decision, they said, we're doing this to help your community. And there aren't words to describe what that's about. So it can only, be, corruption is just the only thing I can describe. This is not ill-informed decision or, we made a mistake. This is just corruption. This is we're going to do what the utilities tell us to do. And we're going to come up with a thinly veiled excuse just because we have to say something other than that we're corrupt. And that's what they did. And it's just breathtaking. You can't make this stuff up.
I could not agree more. I want to turn now to thank you, Dave, to Laura Dehan, who is one of the people I most respect in California advocacy. You've been tireless from the get-go, and you also very prominently told everyone who was able or willing to listen that making the decision that the Public Utilities Commission made was going to end up very badly. So, Laura, and you are calling in from Dubai, where we're representing California, the leader in clean energy.
That's right, and it is important. Like being here in Dubai, which is right outside my window, there is the biggest gas plant you can imagine. It goes for miles right along the beautiful coastline. It's totally destroyed through the oil and gas industry here in this country, and the whole international action on climate is being called to question, around the world, because we have this oil and gas country hosting the climate talks. But the reality is that if we're going to completely repower our entire globe, how we power our lives, how we get people to keep the lights on, to stay warm at night, to go from A to B, the undertaking is so enormous. And we need California to lead the way. We need the state of California, who have been the leaders in really jumpstarting rooftop solar and so many other clean energy technologies. We need to make sure that we continue to lead by example, to show everyone in the world that we don't need to be dependent on dirty energy in the future. And that's why I'm excited to be here in Dubai to share success stories from California, and why it's so urgent that our California leaders take action ASAP to fix the problem that they've created by allowing this terrible rooftop solar policy to go into effect. So I want to share some of the findings that Environment California Research and Policy Center found when we really took a hard look at the benefits of rooftop solar for the environment, for our air, for our water, for having a safe climate for all of us to be able to live in the future, for our future generations. And we found rooftop solar was critical for that future. So let me run through some of the findings, and also what we found when similar incentive programs were cut in the past. The first thing to know is that we need a lot more rooftop solar. Rooftop solar growth is critical for our future. So our state has made a plan for how we're going to get to 100% clean energy. And we've got a plan to get there by 2045. We now need to actually get there faster. We need to get to 90% by 2035. And really, when you look at the signs of the climate crisis all around us, it's pretty clear that we should get there even faster. We're calling to get to 100% clean energy by 2030 in California. And the state has tremendous potential from rooftop solar. When you think about just the sheer number of roofs all across the state, all the buildings, the homes, the businesses, all the parking lots, all the built space, we have the potential to meet more than 100% of our clean energy needs if we were actually fully capturing that power and saving as much of it as we can for later with battery storage. So it is the solution, and it has so many incredible benefits. The first thing to underscore is that rooftop solar installations are fast, much faster to get done than any other clean energy solution. We're looking at lots of other solutions like offshore wind, which we think is a good idea. We're going to need some of that probably, but it's going to take years and years to get the first turbine spinning. Whereas we can build, the average rooftop solar project in less than 3 months. We can do a lot of them all at once if we have the people out in the field, the boots on the ground doing that work to install it. And time matters. If we delay any clean energy installation, that has huge ramifications for how quickly California, the nation, and the world can get to 100% renewable power. The other thing to remember is that taking advantage of catching sunlight on the existing buildings really does tremendous benefit to minimize the damage to all of the beautiful open spaces that we have in our state. In order to meet our clean energy goals, the state has said we need to quadruple rooftop solar power. And if we can do that by just taking advantage of existing rooftops, that saves almost 150,000 acres of open space, about half the size of the whole city of Los Angeles. So it's not just open space, it's not just empty land. This is habitat that's really important for wildlife. Right now, there's 1 million species around the planet that are in danger of going extinct, in part because we are still dependent on burning dirty oil and gas to power our lives. And we have solutions like solar that we should be taking advantage of. The other big benefit is that rooftop solar boosts our resilience. It can allow us to keep the lights on much faster so that we're not subject to the spikes in the market or to disruptions in the electricity grid, which we've seen far too many of in recent years because of issues from our PG&E and other utilities. And so it's crucial that we get solar on every roof and pair it with energy storage as much as we can so that we can have that resilient grid. But we've known that rooftop solar is at risk. And what just happened in California, although it does feel like a shock to the system that California has taken this step and is hurting our rooftop solar clean energy growth, it's not that much of a surprise that there was an effort to do so. In fact, we've seen that this happen time and again. We did another report in just, I think it was last year or the year before, as we were looking at this rooftop solar issue in California, and we found that all across the country and across California in local municipal utilities districts, the small districts that had different solar policies, we found that the incentives, the things that inspire customers to choose to go solar really matter. And we also found that when you get rid of solar compensation, solar incentives like net energy metering, that causes solar installations to really plummet dramatically. And that's why we knew that the CPUC's decision on net metering would have huge implications for California's ability to meet our clean energy and climate goals as fast as we need to. So one of the best examples was in Nevada, which was very eerily similar to what happened in California. They cut their net metering credit, that credit that customers get, by 75% overnight. And you can see from this graph that solar was growing, and then all of a sudden it just plummets. And it dropped by 47% year over year. And then you can see here that in 2018, actually solar starts to grow again. And that is because in response to the public outcry, when all the solar companies started to go bankrupt and all of the solar installations disappeared and people couldn't take advantage of the sunny state Nevada is, the legislature took action to restore credit for customers so that there was that incentive once again. And that's when we see the rooftop solar deployment returning. We made the case a couple of years ago that California cannot afford to have these ups and downs in our clean energy path. We need to go as fast as we can. We need to speed up and not have this bumpy up and down road. We saw the very same thing happen in the California municipal utility districts, where they got rid of their incentive and there was an immediate drop in solar demand, basically overnight. And as we just saw, unfortunately, the same thing is playing out now here in California. When the decision went into effect earlier this year in April, that slashed that credit, that incentive for customers by between 70 and 80% for new solar customers, depending on where they lived and what district, what part of the state. This is the opposite of what we should be doing. We needed a policy that would keep solar growing. This clearly was not it, right? This new solar policy that we adopted has done the worst thing ever. It's really killing the rooftop solar industry. And that's why we're calling on Governor Newsom and our legislative leaders to stand up right now and help us save solar before it's too late for us to lose our edge and our chance to keep the world on track in tackling the climate crisis.
Laura, thank you so much. Yes, you were there along with many other people saying this is what's going to happen if you move forward with this policy. And just to underscore something that Carlos represents so well on this call, you're talking about human capital here squandered, thrown away. I had rooftop solar put on our house this summer. I was lucky to be able to, we rushed. It wasn't a good time for us financially, but we did it because we wanted to get the NEM 2 rate. And I got to tell you, the guys that came here and did such an amazing job of putting our system together. They had to take off a roof. They had to put on a new one. They had all of that incredible skill and talent. Jobs like that are disappearing by the thousands. I have to say, I'm looking now at a headline in the LA Times about job loss. Los Angeles Times, big headline. It's like, I don't know what font size, pretty big font size. Los Angeles Times to cut 74 newsroom positions amid advertising declines. Wow. Now that's a story. How about a story with 17,000 people losing their jobs? Where's that story? Why aren't we hearing that in Sacramento? And I just have to also ask, are you scared, legislators? Are you scared to go up against the utilities? Are they just too powerful for you to take on? Well, maybe we could start a support group for you, because we need you to step up now. We need Governor Newsom to step up now. This is not acceptable. We're losing this human capital. We're punishing a lot of small businesses. Is that what we should be doing? Shame on you for investing capital, hiring people, training them, taking the risks that small businesses take to pay people well, give them benefits. Was that the wrong thing to do? It must be, if this is our policy, to extinguish those jobs and in some cases those companies. So we have a question that came in. What should Sacramento do now? I'd love to hear from our panel. So we've heard a little bit already about what we think we should do. You should fix this mess. But what would that look like? Bernadette, let me turn to you first.
Okay, I would love to. Just to kind of quickly build off of what you were saying. You know, I personally was involved in the Million Solar Roofs initiative back in 2006. The vision of that was to launch a mainstream industry that is based on building clean energy in the places where we live, work, and play.
But that was a Republican governor, right? That was a Republican governor.
Yeah, and then continued under Jerry Brown for many years and supported under a Democrat. So it's been a bipartisan support. But my point is, that was not supposed, getting to 1 million wasn't the end point. Getting to 1 million was simply a goal that we knew if we did that, we could create a thriving industry that, to Dave's point, was embraced by the middle class and the working class. And we wanted to make solar as common as we used to say microwave ovens. Now we would say cell phones, but that was the vision. It was just supposed to be the start. And here we are at the 2 million roof mark, which is an amazing accomplishment. And the state has just pulled the rug out from underneath it. And to your point, Ken, you know, Carlos and his colleagues, there are thousands of companies that came to this industry, came and helped build it from scratch, like Carlos's company. But as a direct response to Sacramento saying, will you please come and build this clean energy for us? We need you. And now we're penalizing, we're punishing, and we're just plain pulling up the rug on these real people with real businesses that are part of how we are going to get to clean energy. Clean energy won't happen without these businesses. So anyway, it is incredibly frustrating. What can Sacramento do? Number one, moratorium on more bad policy coming from the California Public Utilities Commission at the behest of PG&E. Stop it. Stop the pain. And it continues to come. It is not stopped with this bad NEM decision. We need to get back on track and get our priorities straight. And we need that direction to come straight from the governor with support from the legislature. That has to be number one. There's, you know, we could talk about high fixed charges. It's sort of the solar tax redux all over again, because the commission couldn't claw back savings from our NEM 1 and NEM 2 customers. They're going to get it one way or the other. I mean, that's the motivation. And we need to stop this nonsense. So that's number one. Number two is we need to fix the economics. We have to fix the economics of going solar and adding a battery. You could do that two ways. One is you could redo the NEM decision. You can put in place a glide path. You can add an adder that provides real value to the consumer. You could adopt more dynamic rate structures that provide more value to the battery. We could do it through net metering, or we could pour billions of dollars into a battery incentive program to protect consumers from these losses, so that they save all that daytime energy and put it into a battery and use it at night. But we're going to need billions of dollars, just like we did for the PV market in 2006. we have to buy down the upfront cost of a battery. And Carlos, you could tell us, what does a battery, without incentives, what a battery add to a solar system today?
On the low end, 15,000, if not 25,000, 15 to 25, depending on.
Yeah.
15 to 25,000. We're big supporters of this technology. We want everybody to add it to their system, but we can't brush under the rug that that is a huge cost increase. And the state is basically saying all of that investment that you're going to put into your home or your school or your business or your apartment building is going to cost twice as much and be worth half as much. People aren't dumb. So the state needs to correct for that. We need to either fix NEM or we need to pour billions of dollars into batteries to account for this bad decision. Right now, we have neither of those two things on the table, and we need to prioritize that.
And others, what do you, that seems like a pretty good agenda for Sacramento to wake up and act on. We need them to wake up first, but yeah, Carlo.
Well, the thing is right now, right now when we're talking and we're meeting and discussing this, it's the beginning. The thing that's in my head right now is the Pied Piper, right? It's the Pied Piper, and if anybody remembers any movie or any images of the Pied Piper, it was the solar, and then the industry followed. We followed, the industry followed, entrepreneurs followed, and we slowly started growing solar and creating this long-lasting new industry, right? But now this decision feels like we're at the edge of the precipice. So it wasn't, there's no stairs down, there was no gradual shift. It's the edge of a precipice. The beginning of the mice are falling off the cliff, and it's not going to stop unless one of the things that needs to happen is it has to happen for it to really stop is what Bernadette said is they need to revise the NEM decision. If a NEM decision is inevitable and we have to have it, then we have to have a glide path. We have to have a gradual change in the rules. We can't have this sledgehammer that they took to the industry. We have to have a glide path because it's going to continue and it's going to be worse next year.
Yeah. Dave, Laura.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I was honestly stunned when the attacks from the utilities on customers' ability to go solar continued unabated, relentless, right? Attacks on rooftop solar, like was just mentioned, the fixed charges that are being proposed for customer bills that not only make rooftop solar suddenly make even less sense financially, but also completely incentivize the wrong types of energy. It encourages people to waste energy instead of saving energy. And that's not even the end of it, right? Just most recently, reducing the incentives for battery storage, which is was supposed to be the whole case for why they were revising them. And it's pretty stunning, the gall of the powerful special interests that are trying to slow our transition to rooftop solar. But was just more shocking to me is that our regulators are allowing it to happen, and we've got to there's got to be something done about it. One other thing I'll say, in addition to stopping the attacks, the onslaught of the attacks, this great solution, the other thing is we're open to other ideas. Like, there's other models for rooftop solar incentives and battery incentives. We know that the state is in there's a budget deficit looming again. And so it's not like there's billions of dollars sitting around, but at the same time, we have to invest now if we want to stave off the incredible costs of the alternative of not acting as fast as we can to address the climate crisis. The billions and billions of dollars that we're going to be forced to spend are going to be far, far more, far worse.
Dave?
I just in case there's any, want to make this abundantly clear, like I said before. So, you were asking what can legislators do? Bernadette was basically putting them in two categories, right? Like, first, stop doing harm. Second is fix the mess that you've made. And just like I had said before, there was a coalition of 600 nonprofit organizations, schools, cities, etc., that were saying, don't do this. There is that same coalition, hundreds and hundreds of nonprofits, etc., that are now saying, do no more harm. And particularly are telling legislators, you have to change the law starting in January to stop this utility tax. That's what we call it, this fixed charge that we've been talking about. You've got to stop it. And so for my message is just to legislators that are in Dubai or are home in their districts or whatever, is the public has spoken. They continue to speak over and over and over again. People who are representing frontline communities and working class communities, middle class communities, over and over again are saying, stop this attack on the working class, stop this attack on rooftop solar, and fix the mess that you created. Get your butts back home, get some bills introduced. And this year, or not this year, but sorry, like in 2024, before more damage is done, by the time we get around to May or June, fix this mess. We know exactly how you can fix it. We've got no shortage of ideas. A lot of these things are very simple bills, but what we need now is leadership and courage. And there's no, this is very simple. And so, a lot of times we're hearing legislators are getting a lot of phone calls now, and we know this because people are reporting back. And a lot of legislators are saying, we agree with you, but there's nothing we can do. That is an unacceptable answer. Get your butt to Sacramento and fix this mess, because you created this mess. You put all of these things into motion, and then the CPUC just did what the utilities did. So get back to the drawing board. We've got lots of bill ideas for you, and fix it before more job losses happen, before more businesses go underwater, before we get even further behind on our clean energy goals, and before millions of middle and working class people are even further in a hole, from just the onslaught of, bad utility policies that effectively treat customers like a cash machine rather than the actual human beings and citizens of California that they are.
Totally agree. We have a question here. It's an interesting question. What did the CPUC say when presented with what would happen to the state solar sector if NEM 3.0, the reduced incentives, came into effect? What did we hear from our regulators on that matter? I have my own answer, but I'd love to hear from my colleagues on the call.
You mean when the decision was being voted on, what did they say in defense of the decision in the face of all the opposition?
I think this question specifically is, well, if this is going to destroy the solar sector, what did they say to that? Like, well, hey, you're going to lose some people? What was their response?
I don't think they ever were brave enough to take that issue head on. Comments always, yeah, they're couched. They're at a microphone. Nobody ever can directly ask them questions. It's not a very democratic system. We have a governor who appoints 5 people. Those 5 people then are really kind of behind a concrete wall for the public. I mean, even most of the hearings, Dave, you didn't mention, but there were hearing after hearing after hearing in which the public testified
hours of testimony,
and tied up the commission for 8 hours at a time. It was all behind a microphone with you're given 1 minute and they don't respond. They just say, thank you very much. Next comment. And it is, it's a level of disenfranchisement for the public that it's really painful to watch. These commissioners just in the face of this public comment and outrage, they just placidly move along, and they're never required to answer for their decisions. There is no accountability. So I think that's the simplest. I could go on about the spin. They gave lots of spin, but I think we've taxed some of that, the equity spin and the storage spin. Neither of those two things hold water or hold up. But at the end of the day, there's just no accountability.
Carlos, you had a response. I think you wanted to.
No, but I was just going to say that I was in several, I think 3 of those comment sessions or meetings. They even the commission even came to Fresno, California for one of their sessions, and they held here. They wasn't all in Sacramento. I was on a conference call on hold for 4 hours to give my 1 minute my 1 minute spiel. And like Bernadette said, it felt a little bit frustrating, a little bit sad to see the process, because the process is like exactly like she described it. There's no comments, there's nothing. It's just thank you, next, thank you, next, thank you, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, we're running a little short of time now. We've got a few minutes left. I just want to send out my my holiday wishes for the legislators, the executives at the utility companies, and everyone else who still has a job. I just want to wish you a very prosperous and happy holiday season, with your salary still coming in, your benefits still coming in. I especially want to shout out Patty Poppy, who made $51.2 million in 2021. Part of that was payment for a previous job she had. She was the point guard for the Golden State Warriors. Oh, I'm getting my producers in my ear now. Hold on one second. Oh no, that's Steph Curry, and he made 48 million. So anyway, aspire to that, Steph. But meanwhile, let's hear from our leadership in this state. 17,000 jobs gone and counting. Are you going to stand up for the clean energy economy that was built in this state? Governor Schwarzenegger got this thing rolling. Are we going to have a supermajority of Democrats and a Democratic governor be the ones who preside over its dismantling? Seriously? That's okay with you? Well, again, happy holidays. There are a lot of people out there who won't have a job because of these policies. A lot of companies that are going to be struggling early in the year with cash flow and will probably go under because you caved in to monopoly utilities whose first rule of existence is preserve the monopoly. The people of the state of California deserve a lot better. We should be back in the leadership role instead of the role we're in now, which is trying to do something on top of the ashes of the rooftop solar industry. So I'm going to close off now, taking the prerogative of the last word from the moderator. I want to thank Bernadette and Carlos and Dave and Laura for all the fight you've given this issue, and I know you ain't done yet. Neither are we at EWG. I want to thank everyone who joined. Really very much appreciate your attention, and you'll keep hearing from us about this crisis. I can promise you. Thank you.